Welcome to your quick crash course on choosing activities that work for you. If you're already experiencing this work, it'll help you decide whether to dive deeper. For more examples, tools, and detailed guidance, check out the full-length version of this webinar linked in the video description. But before we get started, let's go ahead and get this clean. This presentation was produced under the U.S. Department of Education contract number GS00F115CA with Synergy Enterprises Incorporated. The views expressed herein do not necessarily represent the positions or policies of the U.S. Department of Education. No official endorsement by the U.S. Department of Education of any product, commodity, service, or enterprise mentioned herein is intended or should be inferred. Let's get started with this crash course. You've done your needs assessment. You've heard from families, youth, and partners. You've got the data. But now comes the tough question. What do we actually do with all of this? Step one is to choose 2 or 3 key priorities from your data. You don't need to fix everything at once. Focus on what keeps coming up, what people care about most, and where you already have some momentum. For example, with an NYCP grantee, if your data shows low graduation rates and students feeling disconnected, a good priority might be increasing school engagement. For action, choose 2 to 3 themes like school belonging or college readiness and write them down. These can be your focus. Next, let's look for strategies that have worked, either in research or on the ground. You don't need to start from scratch. Talk to other grantees, ask community members what they've seen works. Explore online databases like What Works Clearinghouse, and check existing guidance across programs and systems. For example, a STEP grantee who wants to improve how Native students were identified in school data, they talked to elders about barriers, connected with another grantee through a peer learning group, and reviewed online research sources, and learned about a strategy that combined updated enrollment forms with staff training. They then need to work with their state and local partners to adopt the idea while adding community input and aligning it with their existing systems. An action you can take is to identify 2 to 3 promising strategies, note where they came from, whether it's peer learning, research, or community practice, and consider how to adapt them for your context. Step 3 is about choosing strategies that are not just possible, but effective and relevant. Ask yourself, where does this strategy fall on the continuum? From a local effort you're testing to a promising practice to a best practice with strong results. To figure that out, you can use multiple perspectives together. For example, ESSA's evidence tiers range from tier 1, which is strongest and based on randomized controlled trials, to tier 4, which is based on a strong theory of action, but hasn't been rigorously tested. Tribal communities may evaluate strengths through looking at generational knowledge, community-validated ideas, emerging practices, and theoretical alignment. The strongest strategies often appear in both systems, but even early-stage ideas can be worth trying if they're relevant, respectful, and set up to be tested and improved upon. Step 4, test a strategy effectively. Start small and focus on one intervention so you can really evaluate its impact. Assign a lead staff member to oversee the effort. Decide how you'll measure success, and make sure you set aside the time for reflection and adjustments along the way. For example, instead of overhauling an entire teacher support program, a NACHE grantee might pilot a mentorship program for new teachers, pairing them with experienced educators to track participation and assess any changes in retention rate. The key is to document your pilot plan. Who's responsible, what strategy you're testing, how you'll measure success, for example, retention rates and feedback, and how you'll track progress over time. I want to thank you so much for watching this crash course. If you want to go deeper, explore more research examples and tools, you can find the full webinar linked in the video description.